Sniper Elite 3 Afrika was released on June 27, 2014. Developed and published by Rebellion Studios, it would go on to create other titles. I had a lot of fun back in the day when this game was released. From the insane sniper kill cams, awesome missions, numerous weapons, this franchise is action-packed with excitement. I want to revisit this series, but with a twist, our very own pistols only challenge. Let's set some ground rules before the challenge begins. I'm only allowed to use pistols. Why, you may ask? Well, this has been a newer challenge series that I started with Republic Commando. I want to go through old and new titles, seeing how this challenge fared on those games. Sniper Elite 3 will be very different to the previous pistol-only entries, which I will talk about throughout the video. Limiting myself to just pistols will be quite the challenge, as this means I must get up close and personal. Next, I must beat the game. There are 8 missions in total, which doesn't seem like much at first, but each mission has multiple objectives scattered across the entire map. Subsequently, the game will be played on the authentic difficulty. Those unfamiliar, let me explain some of the differences between authentic and normal. No respawns, bullet drop doesn't really affect this challenge since pistols are up close and personal. Wind and shifting earth, similar to the previous point. Armored and tough enemies. Enemies will take a lot more shots than usual and are more alert. No marking. The player can usually mark enemies through a set of binoculars, but in this run, you will not be able to. No respawns is going to be the hardest, with tougher enemies being a close second. Afterwards, grenades, dynamites, and landmines are allowed in the run. This is something I usually wouldn't do unless it's World at War, since pistols were extremely scarce, but in this run I need a way to take down tanks and other vehicles. Pistols against most tank weak spots are ineffective at taking them down, so another solution is needed. Lastly, glitches and or exploits are allowed, so expect some cheeky ways to get around areas and take down enemies. I'm really excited to share this run with everyone, since I haven't played Sniper Elite 3 in a while and had a blast going through this challenge. If you haven't seen the other pistol only videos, I'll link them up above and in the description below. Make sure to smash the like button, comment, and subscribe. This greatly helps to support me and push the video to others who may be interested. Now, let's get into the run. The first mission introduces the player to the mechanics alongside setting the pace for the rest of the game. In this early section, with a lot of the battlefield blocked off, the player is forced to use their rifle. No matter. This is the tutorial in a way, so we don't have to count this. Further in the same mission, the player is given a lot more freedom in their approach alongside weapon usability. We are now tasked with eliminating enemies in the area and taking down the noble warfare emplacements wreaking havoc on the city. The pistol that we will be using for 90+% of the run is the semi-auto HGM. This is going to be excellent in the run compared to the other option. That's a nice thing, you can actually choose a loadout and, pick all your stuff. While a revolver and Luger may have more damage, we will be silent with a suppressor on this weapon. The well rod is another solid choice, but lacks the extra ammo in the magazine alongside some other downsides. Compared to most other shooters, rapid shooting in this game can be quite tough to deal with, as the crosshairs become massive, so inaccurate shots are more likely. Mentioned in the rules that the enemies will be a lot more alert compared to the easier difficulties. Well, it seems like every enemy has spidey senses, because any movement that isn't crouch walking will be heard near instantly. Learning as I go, since it has been a bit, I cautiously push forward, taking my shots and trying not to alert enemies. Ultimately, we destroy the artillery, ending the mission. While this was a straightforward mission, I knew everything beyond would be a hell of a lot more challenging. Afterwards, the player is recruited by British intelligence, and we now need to investigate what General Volin has been up to in Africa, as reports are coming in that he is working on a massive project. Because of that, we gear up to see what Gabron has to offer. Spawning in, we are tasked with eliminating certain officers, hoping to pick up some information on Volin. Near instantly, I was noticed, and we can see how brutal it is going to be on authentic difficulty. Enemies will push your position, if not taken down sooner than later, will inflict massive damage on the player. The lower difficulties, the player is able to see their health bar, not in this mode. Because of that, I would have to take a guess which health option would be the best. Another aspect that needs to be taken into account in this challenge is ammo and health reserves. Ammo is going to be the most difficult, since pistols aren't supposed to be the main weapon used. It is called Sniper Elite after all. We will have to see how collecting it goes. As the player progresses through the mission, new enemies will be found. Sometimes reinforcements will be sent in. Enemies with rifles perched up in sniper nests, to MP40 wielding grunts patrolling the area. Each section had to be methodical, making sure enemies don't come into contact with their defeated brethren. Optional objectives can be found, from destroying spotter lights to collecting certain intel. Some optional objectives will impact the mission, limiting reinforcements, but not in this one. What did it for me in this attempt was getting spotted by this MG gunner, caused numerous enemies to pull up on my position. Didn't help that in the narrow paths behind me, I'd yet to take down the 4 troops there, so I was getting pinched from each angle. In the end, I bit too much for me to chew and failed the mission. In other difficulties, difficulties, the player would be able to jump back to a checkpoint, but not on authentic. Instead, we need to restart the entire mission. The subsequent attempt was much better. I fixed my previous mistakes, making sure to clear the enemies in that narrow pathway I mentioned earlier, near the water. This time I engaged the MG turret from more of a distance, which did alert nearby enemies, but allowed me to progress further after dealing with them. This time I got all the way to the very end, but messed up with eliminating the end target. He ran away as I was under siege from the vehicle he exited. Unfortunately, another failed attempt. Thankfully, the next try was a success. Each of these attempts, it seems, will be at least 30 minutes, if not an hour plus, in order to complete them with pistols only. As this is the second mission, I'm curious to see how the later missions will fare, both difficulty and time-wise. I have to say, playing through this challenge reminded me of previous challenges, in the sense that this was going to be extremely difficult, more so than usual. To name a few challenges that are similar in difficulty would be Elden Ring Tools Only, Need for Speed Most Wanted Ultra Nuzlocke, Dark Souls Fists Only. Each previous example took multiple hours, totaling more than a day's worth of gameplay. So I knew this one could be very similar. Even though I knew it may take longer than a usual run, I was just really excited to hop back into the game, alongside having an extremely difficult quest to conquer, Pistols Only. Because we collected some useful information during the previous mission, we are now tasked with going through Hellfire Pass. This will eventually lead us to a fort where an informant is being held. Right away, I could tell this was going to be an interesting mission since the map was massive. Once the initial patrol was dealt with, I further investigated the landscape and enemies with binoculars. There were numerous enemies in these starting zones. Riflemen in each building, submachine gun soldiers patrolled the pathways and surrounding areas. Lastly, the snipers. Oh gosh. We'll get to that momentarily. Got spotted as soon as I entered the village, and yeah, got gunned down near instantly. The first attempt provided some much needed insight into the mission. While it was unfortunate to lose, I knew these missions would take multiple tries. As I did previously, I went through the starting camp, eliminating the soldiers and seeking pass. Instead of hugging the wall like last time, I instead went to the right, which proved to be more fruitful. Then Mr. Sniper Man said hi to me with his multiple bullets. I immediately felt the warm welcome. The main objective at the moment is eliminating artillery emplacements in the area, 3 to be exact. Each of these sections would be heavily protected. Cautious actions had to be undertaken. A few times I used some groundbreaking technology, a rock. Now this may look like an ordinary rock, but it's been infused with radar sensing technology. Jokes aside, the rocks proved very useful over the course of the run. Certain instances I found to be better at distracting enemies. One would be the rock, more so in crowded areas with lots of enemies. Another way I found useful was walking or running around if enemies were a good distance away. Each method helped to drag enemies away from their patrol route, allowing for easy undetected shots. Similarly to the previous mission, I started to notice ammo seeming to be more scarce for the pistol. While we still have plenty of ammo, we aren't looting any off of fallen enemies or ammo crates. This means that accurate shots are going to be necessary in this mission, as each bullet will really count. Progressing further, I took down that sniper that was harassing us near the start of the mission. Now we have a few areas that are fully cleared if we need to retreat. While I am going through this next area, I want to talk about a few things. First, you may have noticed that in each mission, I will usually take down all or nearly all the enemies. Why, you may ask? For a few reasons. It's really meant to allow me to retreat alongside reducing the amount of enemies when they are aggroed pushing up. In a few of the previous fails, the downside was me being too aggressive while leaving enemies up, resulting in a massive push to my location. While this isn't necessary, and it definitely takes more time, it provided a slight sense of relief to know which areas were completely clear. Secondly, most missions do not have a full ammo box. What do you mean by a full ammo box? Well, there are two kinds of resupply crates. One has a variety of choices. It could be, one magazine of a rifle or a pistol alongside maybe some explosives or like a med pack. These can be resupplied from once and are advantageous for the health, as RNG from enemy loot drops can be really tough. The next crate is just pure ammo and can be resupplied from infinitely. I'll put a clip of me going to one in the later missions just to showcase. Because of the aforementioned talking points, I knew this mission and others would be arduous. Near the end of the mission, after taking down the 2nd and 3rd artillery position, Hank enters one of the villages looking to stop us in our tracks. Fortunately, I cleared every area but this one, and so I was crawling with patrols. Because of this, I had to worry about a tank that could 1 to 2 shot me alongside the numerous enemies. Well, as the Sniper Elite 3 gods would declare, today was not that day. I want to show those who are more unfamiliar to this game how tough these missions can be. Mostly how many enemies there actually are. Especially with pistols only, it made for a challenging time. Let the montage roll now. Subsequently, the path forward mostly clear, our main protagonist pushes further, eventually reaching Fort Refugio, the place where British intelligence said we could find the informant. Right away in the first attempt, literally like the first 30 seconds, I got noticed and had to retreat. In the end, I decided to just restart the level since we were so close to the start. Fortunate, but necessary. Because of the amount of enemies, alongside needing to be stealthy, I really needed to keep my eyes peeled, not aggroing enemies. A nearly stealthy approach is possible when hugging the left side of the map. Contingency reserve would be taking down the handful of enemies on the pathway. Once near the fort entrance, we were tasked with saving the informant. We thought outside was bad, oh my gosh, inside there were like countless enemies, all spread out watching different sections. I accidentally alerted a patrol, and well, the rest is history. While this mission is much faster than the previous ones, things were far from easy. Following the pathway noted in the second attempt, I made my way back to the fort. Initially, I wanted to take down a section of the fort, so if enemies were alerted, there would be a lot less people aggroed. Once I searched an officer's body, alongside missing a few shots on a nearby soldier, I alerted a bunch of enemies, but then I had to bunker up on the top floor of the structure. While this is far from the best position, it gave me a few advantages. First was that it bottlenecks enemies down two pathways, staircase on the left side and the rooftop through the other door. Second was that enemies, specifically riflemen, were on the rooftops on the opposite side of the fort. Even though these aren't snipers, they surely hit hard and from afar. Pistols are such cool weapons, but not as cool as you heading over and checking out the VODs channel. Here I post challenge run streams and highlights. KOTOR blasters only to saw no deaths. You can find awesome and entertaining content there. We recently hit 100 subs, so I'm really thankful for that. Let's see if we can get it up to 200. Thanks for the support. Now, let's get back to the challenge. Sooner or later, with enemies littering the floor, I knew that I could easily breeze to the informant, since most enemies were defeated at this point, though there were definitely some stragglers. We make our way to the informant, then speak with him. Some German reinforcements will arrive, and the player needs to take them out in order to progress. Usually the player can use the Panzerschreck, which sits on the ammo crate waiting, but since this is a pistols only run, we are going to need to pass on that one. I pick them off one at a time. The unlimited ammo box nearby, I need to conserve or worry about ammo. Instead, it was that I couldn't rapid fire since the crosshairs would grow massively, making shots super inaccurate. The end of the mission forces the player to use a sniper rifle, protecting the informant as he passes through the main gates. Why can't you use your pistol? Are you able to go down closer to the enemies? Well, pistols are non-usable here. Well, technically they are, but at this range, every shot would be inaccurate alongside completely missing. Did try it with a few enemies, but never received a hit marker, so I just stopped using it. To answer the second question, the player is forced to stay up on the ramparts of the fort, but going out through the front gate to provide CQC support is unavailable. Ultimately, I had to use the sniper and protect the target, since the player can easily fail this mission if he isn't protected. It was saddening to see that, but it is called Sniper Elite for a reason. Similar to the Call of Duty runs, I knew that this would have some on-the-rails sections, but far less intrusive than COD. Siwa Oasis. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. When I think back on this run while writing the script, I cannot help to think of how brutal this and the second to last mission was. While we are more than halfway through the game's missions, we aren't even halfway through the challenge run yet. That really goes to show how difficult this run was. Before we break down the gameplay, let's talk about the map. Compared to the other missions, I think that this mission is much larger in size. Ultimately, we'll add more time as more areas will need to be cleared. During my first attempt, I didn't realize it, but there are 3 ways to enter. First is an AA emplacement on the right side. Once the enemies are dealt with, there is an easy entrance to get past. Second is the main gate. This is probably one of the hottest zones on the map, meaning there's a lot of enemy activity nearby, but this was regularly avoided. Third, which I found to be great in the early section of this mission, at least in like the second attempt and beyond, was an abandoned smuggler's tunnel. There's some enemies leading up to it, but afterwards the player is rewarded with an unlimited ammo crate in the tunnel. Next are the optional objectives. While there were fewer in the mission compared to the previous ones, they were extremely spread out. Why bother with the optional objectives? Well, mainly to deal with the reinforcements when I alert the nearby enemies. Depending on the player's position, weapon shot, etc., enemies will be pulled from the surrounding areas. Because of that, best to deal with each enemy group rather than 1 or 2 massive gunfights. Last point I will make in this section is regards to the snipers. There are 2 ghillie-suited snipers watching over Siwa Oasis. The first sniper is in the northeastern section of the map, and is arguably the more difficult of the 2. The area that he is covering is very wide open, and so getting spotted is a death sentence. The last sniper holds the northwestern side, but since there are numerous structures providing cover, this was a cakewalk. In the first attempt, I decided to go towards the right pathway near the first AA gun location. Once the enemies were dealt with, I pushed further into the town. Because we need to acquire intel on the project General Valen is working on, the office section was then the next place to go. You with the sniper on the left, then the other sniper, aka the annoying ass one. Shortly afterwards, I found out about that smuggler tunnel I mentioned in the intro cutscene for this mission. There wasn't a limited ammo crate to resupply from, which was great, especially with the number of enemies encountered throughout the mission. I really need to resupply often. With most, if not all of the enemies dead in the mission, I decided to test the pistol again on the latest vehicle, seeing if maybe at closer range it would penetrate the grille. After multiple shots and trials, nothing changed. So yeah, pistols are worthless against vehicles. Once I reached the main objective, we were meant to investigate the officers to see which one is the correct one to follow. Well, the first attempt, I didn't realize that the player was meant to search for the officer with hand injury. And yeah, we failed the mission. Yeah, that was annoying as hell. The subsequent try, I made it back to the previously mentioned section, which took a bit less time since I generally knew the enemy placements and patrol routes. I was able to correctly identify the officer, then waited till he got the intel. Afterwards, those 3 officers said hello to the trusty HCM and said nighty-night. Once the intel is collected, tank will bust into the town. Objective now is to destroy the tank. Easy and simple. Somehow tricked myself into thinking the star objective was directly showing where the tank was. Let's just say he rolled up right behind me, and the next thing I knew, I was at the restart screen. The next try, I knew that this mission could really be one of the more difficult ones in the game. Little did I know that the second to last mission was going to be it. Similar to Hellfire Pass, I want to showcase how brutal this mission was. Mostly how many enemies there were. The snipers proved to be a massive hindrance. If I ever got shot by one, I would be maybe full red, with the next bullet being my last. Let the montage commence. The player and the informant now must travel through Kasserine Pass, hoping to find more intel on what Valen has been working on. Decided to push left towards one of the optional objectives. Right away, I could tell this was going to be an interesting mission, since vehicles could be heard patrolling the area. Unfortunately, shortly after making contact, I got lit up and got destroyed shortly afterwards. Fun times. Similarly to the first attempt, I pushed to the left, destroying the optional objective, decided to leave the enemies for now, since they had the advantage of range and I had little cover to deal with. Pushing up through the middle, I quickly met the sniper up in a tower, and him and his friends had a chat with me. A patrolling vehicle later noticed me, nearly ending this run. I ran back inside for cover, then slowly made my way around the outskirts towards the main objective. Since the vehicle patrols nearby, I decided to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I probably got one of the funniest moments in the run afterwards, so I'll just let it play right now. Yeah, that was quite funny. But we did get them to team kill. They did reinforce themselves with at least 5+ guys. So yeah, not the best trade-off. Seeing them leave to the more central section of the map, I let them be for now, since with the open landscape, it would be hard not to get spotted. Now that we have the location of the safe, we are now tasked with finding the combination for it. This was an interesting section since there's really little cover, besides this one tunnel system. Thankfully, with plentiful ammo and supply, I was able to take down the enemies. Yeah, the RNG and the pistol resupply from enemies was atrocious this attempt. The first few minutes of this run, I managed to get spotted by a tank and bunkered down in a place where all the enemies were still alive. Needless to say, a massive gunfight ensued. Because of the constant gunfighting, I had to continually heal. I eventually got to a dire situation where I was low on heals and really needed to start getting some luck from the RNG Lord. Getting back to where we were in the previous attempt, I'd managed to save just enough ammo to hopefully get me through this and the next section. Initially though, I had to deal with the enemies surrounding the buildings alongside the sniper perched up top. I found this nasty exploit in this one tunnel system that allowed the player to peer through the wall. This really helped me to pinpoint the enemies left. Then the sniper was dealt with. Ultimately, we retrieved the codes once the officer's body is looted. The informant gets destroyed by this panzer tank, and so we were tasked with destroying it. Then it was a waiting game, since the tank had a slow pathway around the map. Made my way back to the safe, but alerted the nearby enemies until a massive wave of enemies were inbound. There was very little cover, and the cover that was there, such as wooden boxes, would let enemies get piercing damage on me. I was also slightly nervous, to be honest, since I had very little ammo to my name, literally 12 bullets, which could mean 12 headshots, but with my trash aim, it might be a few more to take them down. Once the assault stopped, took down the other vehicle that spawned in, then tried to take down the rifleman. Tried is the key word, since he was still left standing. In hindsight, this was definitely a slight obstacle soon thereafter. With the safe open, we find a movie reel, showcasing General Valen's plans, specifically Project Zoika, which is this massive tank. You will see it in the final mission for those curious. Leaving the ancient structure with the safe inside, numerous snipers post up in the positions outside the area. Right as I saw that, I was like, oh boy, am I screwed. With 4 bullets left, I had to proceed with extreme caution, since I knew this could be the final section within the mission. Maybe another small thing to do, but I knew this was pretty much near the end. That rifleman I mentioned earlier and that sniper loved to tag team me, alongside being a massive nuisance. I used that exploit mentioned earlier, taking down one of the newly spawned snipers. This probably could be applicable to a bunch of the areas here and probably even the other missions, so I'd be curious to hear. Then the mission was completed once we returned to Barry Brower, the informant's body. Yeah, that was not necessarily the most difficult, but damn did it measure my patience and persistence. With Valen's location zeroed near Tunisia, we must now storm the Axis airfield and cut off Valen's supply lines. Like most missions, I played things as stealthily as possible, taking down enemies one at a time with a single headshot. I accidentally alerted the enemies when I didn't take the right shot fast enough, and the soldier found multiple corpses. Then I saw just a small taste of what this mission had to offer, just in the nearby zones alone. At least 10 plus guys came my way. With just a pistol, it meant I had to play passively, like a lion, wait for my opportunity to strike. Going through the first set of hangars, I took down some enemies along the way, found an unlimited resupply cache. They'll be incredibly useful throughout the whole mission, as this means ammo doesn't need to be conserved. Then deactivated the doors around the map, allowing us to enter the lower levels of the airfield. Afterwards, I was really curious to see what else was on the map. Found an optional objective to take down the control tower operator. This would limit reinforcements apparently. Little did I know while doing this that there's a sniper nearby. Even though he didn't spot me, thankfully, it was going to be difficult to deal with him as there was no angle to get a good shot with a pistol. Dealt with one of the armored vehicles on the map. Yeah, at this point in the run, I'd yet to see the others and thought this was the only one. Then came across the other one. That actually made me jump a bit in the moment, so I was not expecting that to be there. When the tank fired, alerting nearby enemies, I got to see what I was now up against. 2 snipers on the ridgeline behind the tank. Oh gosh, this was going to be interesting. Figuring that the best way would be to go around and come up from under the 2 snipers, tried going through the middle of the airfield towards the radio tower. That sniper I didn't realize from earlier absolutely obliterated me in 2 shots. From at least like a mile away. Bro had that Halo 2 legendary jackal energy to him right then. The next attempt was more or less the same. I did get a little bit further than the previous try and managed to take down the 2 snipers on that ridgeline. Fortunately, I got destroyed by this random soldier with an SMG, melting me near instantaneously. 3rd time's a charm, right? Well, this Panzerschreck guy had other plans, making sure that no matter what, I would not stay alive. I ran out of ammo afterwards when hordes of enemies stormed my position. With the unlimited ammo cache on the opposite side of the map, I was forced to stay here until enemies lost interest, which never ended up happening, and they smoked me right away once I lost my ammo. The 5th attempt was the best out of all the others. I managed to go through and defeat enemies with just a pistol, alongside taking down both vehicles and the snipers. Once I had collected the intel from below the base and reached the objective marker, the player has to defend the LRDG from Axis forces. Then the player is forced to use the sniper. While it may be possible to run up and then use the pistol, by the time I even got a few sniper shots off, the LRDG technical got destroyed, ultimately failing the mission. Now, by the 6th attempt, I was running a bit low on fumes, I'm not gonna lie, but managed to beat it in this try. Main difference in my planning was completely avoiding the optional objectives. Besides one at the very end, but I'll get to that in a minute. As per usual, I went down the left side from the starting area, then went through each of the hangars, resupplying in the first one. I deactivated the doors around the map, collected the intel below the airfield, then took down the radio operator, which was an optional objective, but will limit the reinforcements coming in. Afterwards, I defended the LRDG from the assault, thankfully managed to take down the soldiers, preventing the truck from exploding. Last thing in the mission is to destroy a convoy vehicles that just entered the airfield. Tell you the truth, this was another section where pistols only could not be achieved. It was unfortunate to say the least. This is it, lads. The rat construction facility must now destroy the rat tank and take down Volin. While the final mission is playing, let's talk about pistols. Good, the bad, and the ugly. Pistols compared to other weapons in most games, they are generally a worse choice compared to, an assault rifle, submachine gun, or beyond. Less ammo capacity, range, and accuracy than some other choices. Let's start with the good. The HEM was excellent for staying concealed in most situations. It allowed me to pick off targets without alerting others. Next was that even though it may not have the range of a sniper in this game, hitting headshots at medium distances was more than doable. Comparing this to Republic Commando and the Call of Duty challenge runs, this was far more difficult than those, like far more. Even in the worst World at War scenarios, was a good scenario in Sniper Elite. Now on to the bad. Pistols, similar to using an SMG in this game, have terrible spray when shooting consecutively, so inaccurate shots are usually the outcome. This is why for the most part I was forced to stay stealthy. While I do prefer that playstyle, it is fun to run a gun every once in a while, though I couldn't ever do that. Compared to snipers, pistols get destroyed in the range battle. Whenever I saw a sniper or an enemy far away, there was simply nothing I could do. I need to slowly make my way over towards them. If I was using a sniper, then pretty much if I saw an enemy, I could take them down. So another massive hindrance during the run was the range lost with pistols only. The ugly ties into pistols only, but it's mostly how the authentic difficulty has no checkpoints, meaning that I would often get destroyed and needed 30 plus minutes to get back to where I once was. Now this was a risk and reward type of deal, which for this challenge made it much more fun and entertaining to play through, just 20 times more difficult. This challenge is very similar to a no death run, like in my Elden Ring challenge that I did that. I think it took like 6 attempts. Really fun risk and reward type challenge, and so I highly implore you guys to try those out. Since pistols only were used on the authentic difficulty, many missions took multiple attempts to complete. I'd be really interested to hear from you guys if you've tried any of the challenges on the channel, what your experience was with that specific game. Let me know, I'd be super interested. Unfortunately for the last section of the mission, a sniper had to be used, but we shoot the crane hook, causing the explosives to drop on the rat tank. We see General Volin and the other Axis forces get crushed by the falling debris, then we escape, completing the mission and the whole campaign. Ultimately, we complete the game with pistols only. Well, sort of. We learned that most missions could be completed that way, but some instances force the player on the rails to then use a sniper or so on. Of the previous pistols only challenges, this was the most difficult by far, so I'm curious what I should do next. The Halo series or maybe something else? I'd be interested to hear down below. The challenge took nearly a full day's worth of playing to complete, which is interesting to know. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. This greatly helps to support me in the channel, alongside pushing the video to others who may be interested. Try to do something kind for someone today, whether it's a small or large gesture. This is your boy Skilled Fawn, and I'm out.